Let us begin by understanding what it truly means to be yourself. Being yourself, my dear friends, is not about conforming to some external idea of who you should be. It is not about living up to the expectations of others or even living up to your own past expectations of yourself. No, being yourself is about recognizing and embodying your divine nature. You see, you are not merely a physical being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a physical experience. Your true self, your I am, is God himself individualized. When God said, "Let us make man in our image," he was speaking of you. You are the very expression of the divine clothed in human form. To be yourself, then, is to recognize and embody this divine nature. It is to know, without a shadow of doubt, that you are the operant power in your world. Your consciousness, your I am, is the very substance from which your reality is formed. Consider for a moment the story of Moses at the burning bush. When Moses asked God for his name, God replied, "I am that I am." This, my beloved listeners, is the name of God. And it is your name too, for you are an individualization of that same I am. When you say, "I am happy, I am successful, I am loved," you are literally naming God within you. You are defining your state of being. And in doing so, you are creating your reality. This is what it truly means to be yourself, to consciously embody the I am, to define your state of being in alignment with your desires. Now let us turn our attention to the concept of loving yourself. In the world of Caesar, self-love is often confused with narcissism or selfishness. But I tell you this, true self-love is the foundation of all creation, all manifestation, all fulfillment. To love yourself is to recognize your divine nature and to cherish it. It is to treat yourself with the same reverence and awe that you would treat God. For are you not made in his image? Are you not an expression of the divine? When you truly love yourself, you align with the creative power of the universe. You become a clear channel through which the infinite abundance of the cosmos can flow. Self-love is not about pampering your ego or indulging your every whim. It is about honoring the divinity within you, nurturing your connection to the source of all being. Imagine, if you will, a beautiful flower. Does it strain to bloom? Does it compare itself to other flowers? No, it simply is. It allows the sun to warm it, the rain to nourish it. It trusts in the process of its own unfolding. This, my friends, is self-love. It is the natural state of being when you recognize your true nature. So when I say to you, love yourself, I am inviting you to embody this state of natural, effortless being. I am asking you to see yourself as God sees you, perfect, complete, lacking nothing. For in truth, that is what you are. Now, let us delve into the concept of trusting yourself. Trust, my dear friends, is not about having faith in your limited human abilities. It is about having unwavering faith in the God within you, in the I am that is your true self. To trust yourself is to trust in the creative power of your imagination. It is to know, without doubt, that what you can conceive and believe you can achieve. This trust is not based on past experiences or external evidence. It is based on the unchanging truth of your divine nature. Consider the story of Peter walking on water. When he kept his gaze fixed on Christ, he was able to do the impossible. But when he looked at the waves, when he doubted, he began to sink. This, my friends, is a perfect illustration of self-trust. When you keep your focus on your divine nature, on the Christ within you, you can accomplish what the world deems impossible. But when you look to external circumstances, when you doubt your divine power, you sink into limitation. So when I say trust yourself, I am urging you to trust in the God within you. Trust in the power of your imagination to shape your reality. Trust that as you assume a state in your imagination, it must manifest in your outer world. Now, you might be wondering, Neville, how do these three concepts, being yourself, loving yourself, and trusting yourself, work together? I tell you, they are not separate concepts, but different aspects of the same fundamental truth. To be yourself is to embody your divine nature. To love yourself is to cherish and nurture that divine nature. To trust yourself is to have faith in the creative power of that divine nature. They are a trinity, each reinforcing and amplifying the others. When you truly be yourself, that is, when you consciously embody your I am nature, you naturally love yourself. For how can you not love that which is divine? And when you love yourself in this way, trust naturally follows. For you know that the power that created the universe resides within you. Let me share with you a principle that underlies this truth, the law of assumption. This law states that you become what you assume yourself to be. If you persist in the assumption that you are the person you wish to be, living the life you desire to live, that assumption will harden into fact. This is where being yourself, loving yourself, and trusting yourself come together in perfect harmony. You be yourself by assuming the state of your wish fulfilled. You love yourself by cherishing this state, by feeling its reality. And you trust yourself by having faith that this assumed state must manifest in your outer world. Consider a man who desires success in his career. The world might tell him to work harder, to compete, to struggle. But I say to him, be yourself by assuming the state of being successful. Feel it, embody it. Love yourself by cherishing this state, by treating yourself as you would if you were already successful. Trust yourself by having unwavering faith that this state must manifest in your outer world. As he does this, he will find that opportunities naturally come his way. His actions will flow effortlessly from his assumed state. He will make decisions and take steps that align with his assumption of success. And lo and behold, his outer world will reshape itself to match his inner assumption. This, my dear friends, is the power that lies within you. No matter your current circumstances, no matter the challenges you face, you have within you the divine capacity to assume any state you desire. And as you assume that state, as you love and trust yourself in that state, your outer world must, by cosmic law, reorganize itself to reflect your assumption. Now, some of you may be thinking, but Neville, I have tried to assume different states and nothing has changed to you. I say this, your imaginal acts have not failed. They have borne fruit exactly as you have planted them. If you have imagined with doubt, with fear, with a sense of effort, then those very states have manifested in your world. The secret, my dear listeners, is to imagine from the end. See your desire as already fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of its completion. Do not strain to make it so, for in striving you affirm its absence. Instead, relax into the knowing that it is done. This is what it means to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself. Let me illustrate this with a personal experience. Many years ago, I found myself in New York City, penniless and unknown. The world would have told me to doubt myself, to settle for less, to give up on my dreams. But I knew the truth of what I now share with you. I assumed the state of being a successful lecturer, sharing these profound truths with eager audiences. I loved myself in that state, cherishing the feeling of fulfillment purpose. I trusted that this state must manifest in my outer world. And lo and behold, within a short span of time, I was standing before audiences sharing these very principles. The outer world rearranged itself to match my inner assumption. I did not physically strive or struggle. I simply been myself, loved myself, and trusted myself in the state of my wish fulfilled. This, my friends, is the pattern of the universe. First the imaginal act, then its physical reflection. Your outer world is nothing more than a shadow cast by the light of your consciousness. Change the consciousness, and the shadow must change. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but what of my current circumstances? What of my struggles and pains? To you I say this, your circumstances, no matter how seemingly real or solid, are but reflections of past assumptions. They have no power to persist unless you grant them that power through your continued assumption of their reality. Be yourself then by assuming a new state. Love yourself by cherishing this new state. Trust yourself by having faith in the reality of your imaginal act. Your current circumstances will dissolve and reform in harmony with your new assumption, just as naturally as ice melts in the warmth of the sun. Consider the biblical story of Joseph, sold into slavery by his brothers, imprisoned on false charges. Joseph could have succumbed to self-doubt and despair. The world would have understood if he had questioned his worth, if he had stopped loving and trusting himself. But Joseph did more than survive. He thrived. How? By being himself, the self he knew himself to be in his imagination. He loved himself, maintaining an unshakable sense of his divine nature and his destined greatness. He trusted himself, having faith that his inner knowing would manifest in his outer world. And indeed, he rose from the depths of the prison to become the second most powerful man in Egypt, saving not only himself, but his entire family in Akish. This, my dear listeners, is the power that lies within you when you truly be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself. Now let us delve deeper into the practical application of these principles. How does one maintain this state of being oneself, loving oneself, and trusting oneself in the face of contrary evidence? How does one persist when the senses scream of limitation and lack? The key, my friends, lies in understanding the nature of your own consciousness. You are not a helpless observer of your thoughts and feelings. You are the author of them. Just as an author can revise a story, you can revise the contents of your consciousness. When doubts arise, when fear creeps in, recognize them for what they are, old patterns of thought, old assumptions seeking to reassert themselves. Do not fight them, for in fighting, you give them power. Instead, gently but firmly replace them with your new assumption. If, for instance, you are assuming the state of being confident and successful, and you find yourself feeling insecure, do not berate yourself for this lapse. Simply revise it. In your imagination, see yourself embodying confidence and success. Feel it, live it, be it. This revision done consistently will transform your outer world. Remember, my dear listeners, that your imagination is not bound by the constraints of physical reality. In your imagination, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. And as you persist in this imaginal act, as you live from the assumption of its fulfillment, you will find your outer world reshaping itself to match your inner it. This is what it truly means to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself. It is not a matter of forcing change through willpower or action. It is a matter of changing your concept of self, of assuming the state of your wish fulfilled, and letting the outer world conform to this new inner reality. Let me share with you a technique that I have found particularly powerful in maintaining this state of being, loving and trusting yourself. I call it living in the end before you sleep each night. Construct a scene in your imagination that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Make it as vivid and as real as you can. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the naturalness of your desire fulfilled. As you drift off to sleep in this state, you are impressing this reality upon your subconscious mind. And your subconscious, which knows no difference between imaginal and physical experience, will begin to work tirelessly to bring about the conditions necessary for the outer manifestation of your inner experience. This, my dear friends, is true self-love and self-trust, the love and trust to persist in your imaginal act night after night, regardless of outer appearances. It is being yourself in its truest sense, being the self you desire to be in your imagination. Now, let us address a question that often asks, what of action? Should we not take action towards our goals? To this I say, of course, take action when you are inspired to do so. But understand that inspired action flows naturally from your assumed state. When you truly be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself in the state of your wish fulfilled, you will find yourself naturally taking actions in harmony with that state. These actions will not feel like effort or struggle. They will feel natural, inevitable, joyful. Consider an artist who assumes the state of being a successful painter. She doesn't force herself to paint. She paints because in her assumed state, that's what she naturally does. The inspiration flows, the ideas come because in her consciousness, she is already that successful artist. This is the difference between action born of lack and action born of fulfillment. When you act from a state of lack, trying to get something you don't have, your actions are tinged with anxiety, with effort. But when you act from the state of fulfillment, your actions are effortless expressions of your assumed reality. So be yourself by assuming your desired state. Love yourself by cherishing this state. And trust yourself by having faith in its manifestation. Let your actions flow naturally from this state of being. This is the path of least resistance, the path of joy and fulfillment. Now, my dear listeners, I want to address a vital point. Some of you may be thinking, but Neville, I have responsibilities, challenges, problems that demand my attention. How can I ignore these and live in an imaginal state? To you, I say this, you are not ignoring your challenges. You are transcending them. By being yourself, loving yourself, and trusting yourself in the state of your wish fulfilled, you are elevating your consciousness above the level at which these problems exist. And from this higher state, solutions will present themselves that were invisible from your previous state of consciousness. Remember, the outer world is a reflection of your inner state. As you change your inner state, your perception and experience of the outer world must change. What seemed an insurmountable problem from one state of consciousness may dissolve entirely or present a simple solution when viewed from a higher state. This is why I urge you to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself. Be yourself by embodying your desired state, regardless of appearances. Love yourself by cherishing this state, nurturing it with your attention and feeling. Trust yourself by having unwavering faith in the reality of your imaginal act. Let me illustrate this with a story. A woman once came to me in deep distress. She had been struggling with chronic illness for years, and her world was defined by pain and limitation. She wanted to know how she could be herself, love herself, and trust herself in the face of such overwhelming physical evidence to the contrary. I guided her to imagine a scene that implied her desired end, perfect health. She chose to imagine herself running along a beach, feeling the vitality in her body, the joy of movement, the freedom from pain. I instructed her to embody this state fully, to love herself in this state of perfect health, to trust in its reality, despite all physical evidence to the contrary. Night after night, she enacted this scene in her imagination as she fell asleep. During the day, she lived from the assumption of perfect health. When pain arose, when doubt threatened to overwhelm her, she gently but firmly returned to her assumption. Weeks passed, and then months. And then one day she realized that she hadn't felt pain in days. Her energy had returned. She found herself naturally eating healthier, moving more, enjoying life fully. Her chronic condition, which doctors had deemed incurable, had vanished. You see, my friends, this woman was being herself, the self she knew herself to be in her imagination. She loved herself by cherishing the state of health, by treating herself as a healthy person would. She trusted herself by having unwavering faith in the reality of her imaginal act. This is the pattern you must follow, regardless of your specific desire, be it health, wealth, love, or any other form of fulfillment. Be yourself by assuming the state of your wish fulfilled. Love yourself by cherishing this state. Trust yourself by having faith in its manifestation. Now I can hear some of you thinking, but Neville, what if I assume a state and nothing happens? What if I imagine and still fail to you? I say this failure is impossible. What you perceive as failure is merely your manifestation in progress. Remember, your outer world cannot help but reflect your inner state. If you have truly been yourself, loved yourself, and trusted yourself in your desired state, if you have lived from the end, then your manifestation is as certain as the dawn following the night. What appears as delay or failure is often the necessary reorganization of your outer world to match your new inner state. Trust in this process. Be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself in the knowing that what you have assumed in your imagination must externalize in your world. Consider the growth of an oak tree from an acorn. Once planted, the acorn doesn't immediately sprout into a mighty oak. There's a period where, to outer appearances, nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, profound changes are taking place. The acorn is gathering resources, breaking open, sending out roots. Your imaginal act is like that acorn. Once planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious, it begins to grow. The fact that you can't yet see its outer manifestation doesn't negate its reality. Be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself during this gestation period. Live more and more from your desired state. Let me share with you another principle that will aid you in this process. I call it the law of reversibility. This law states that if a physical event can produce a psychological state, then that psychological state can produce a physical event. For instance, if being in perfect health would make you feel vibrant and joyful, then feeling vibrant and joyful can attract perfect health to you. If being in a loving relationship would make you feel cherished and happy, then feeling cherished and happy can attract that loving relationship to you. This is why it's so vital to be yourself, love yourself, and trust yourself in the state of your wish fulfilled. By doing so, you are engaging the law of reversibility, setting in motion the forces that will bring about the physical conditions that match your psychological state. So when I say be yourself, love yourself, trust yourself, I am inviting you to be yourself by embodying your desired state, to love yourself by cherishing the state, and to trust yourself by having unwavering faith in its manifestation. Now, my dear listeners, as we approach the conclusion of our discussion, I want to address a question that often arises. Neville, people ask, if being oneself, loving oneself, and trusting oneself is so powerful, why do we see so much suffering in the world? Why don't people just imagine better circumstances for themselves? To this I say, people do create their reality through their assumptions and imaginal acts, but often unconsciously. Most people are not aware of their creative power. They react to life, assuming states based on their circumstances, not realizing that their circumstances are the result of their previous assumptions. This is why I share these truths with you, to awaken you to your divine nature, to your creative power. When you become aware that your imagination creates your reality, you move from being a passive victim of circumstances to being the active creator of your life. This is the true meaning of being yourself, loving yourself, and trusting yourself. It is being the self you truly are, a divine creator. It is loving yourself as the expression of God that you are. It is trusting in your inherent power to shape your reality. Imagine a world where everyone understood this truth, where each person consciously assumed the state of their fulfilled desires. Such a world would be free from conflict, from lack, from suffering. For in such a world, each person would know that their good comes not at the expense of others, but from the infinite abundance of their own imagination. You, my dear friends, have the power to create such a world. It begins with you, with your assumption, with your state of being. As you embody these truths, as you live from the state of your wishes fulfilled, you become a light in the world, inspiring others to awaken to their own divine nature. So I urge you, be yourself by assuming your desired state. Love yourself by cherishing this state. Trust yourself by having unwavering faith in its manifestation. Know that as you do this, you are not just changing your individual life, you are contributing to the transformation of the entire world. For you are not separate from the world, you are the world. Your consciousness is the very substance from which your reality is formed. As you elevate your consciousness, you elevate the world. In closing, my beloved listeners, remember this: you are divine beings endowed with the creative power of the universe. Your imagination is the very workshop in which your world is shaped. Be yourself by embodying your highest vision. Love yourself as the divine being you are. Trust yourself as the creator of your reality. Let your light shine brightly, illuminating not just your own path, but the paths of all those around you. For as you assume the state of your fulfilled desires, as you live from the end, you become a living testimony to the transformative power of being yourself, loving yourself, and trusting yourself. Go forth then with this knowledge. Be yourself in the highest sense, the self you desire to be. Love yourself unconditionally, recognizing your divine nature. Trust yourself implicitly, having faith in your creative power. And watch in wonder as your world transforms to match the beauty of your inner vision. Remember, my friends, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not a place to be reached, but a state to be assumed. Assume it now. Live from it now. For in truth, there is only now, this eternal moment in which all possibilities exist. Be yourself, love yourself, trust yourself in this eternal now. And in doing so, you will discover the limitless power that has been within you all along. You will realize that you are the author of your life, the creator of your world. This, my dear friends, is the true meaning of be yourself, love yourself, trust yourself. It is the recognition of your divine nature, the cherishing of your creative power, and the unwavering faith in your ability to shape your reality. As you leave here tonight, carry this truth with you. Let it infuse every aspect of your being. Be yourself by assuming the highest, most beautiful state you can conceive. Love yourself as the divine being you truly are. Trust yourself as the creator of your reality. For in doing so, you fulfill your destiny as a divine creator, shaping your world through the power of your imagination. Go now and create wonderfully. The world awaits your awakening to your true self, your divine love, and your infinite power. Be yourself, love yourself, trust yourself, and watch as miracles unfold in your life.